This podcast is brought to you by RX Smart Gear. Whether you're just starting out in your fitness journey or an avid workout enthusiast, a jump rope is one of the most essential pieces of equipment you should have in your workout arsenal, and I cannot recommend RX Smart Gear jump ropes highly enough. I've been using the RX Smart Gear jump rope for close to 10 years now. The quality, variety, customization are beyond compare. I actually did a workout yesterday with my first RX Smart Gear rope that I got almost 10 years ago, and it's still an amazing addition, still worked out great for the workout that I did. I love these ropes. Not only are they dedicated to constantly improving and challenging the community with their variety of ropes, but they're also dedicated to the education when it comes to their ropes and promote proper movement and technique patterns, which we of course love at Power Monkey Fitness. They've recently launched their new Frevo rope, which is made of a high impact polymer that can withstand up to a 50-pound dumbbell impact. With grippy handles and smooth transitions between drills, you cannot lose with this rope. Take your freestyle game to another level and visit rxsmartgear.com and order your rope today. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Chad Vaughn, and on today's episode, we have Angela Gargano. Angela is a fellow New Jersey Italian-American who also went on to compete collegiately in gymnastics, so we have a ton in common. But where she took that gymnastics talent was to the Ninja Warrior world, and she's become very well known and successful from Ninja Warrior. But we talk about some of the trials and tribulations going from being a gymnast into Ninja Warrior, a ton of knee injuries, torn up knees, some of the things that she had to overcome to become a better athlete, a better person, and someone who was able to create the program Strong Feels Good, which has been able to help over 500 women get their first strict pull-up, an amazing program that has helped empower women, get them stronger, get them more capable of doing things they didn't think they were capable of doing before. We talk a little bit about how she became an entrepreneur in the fitness world and how her background has allowed her to succeed. It was great catching up with Angela, being that she was also a Power Monkey camper back in the day. Talk a little bit about her experience there and where she envisions herself being in the near future. Enjoy. Angela, what's up? Thanks for taking the time to be with us today. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Excellent. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's good to see your face again. Where are you at right now?
I moved to Austin, Texas,
Wow. When did that happen?
literally a year ago.
Oh, really? Oh, so it's been a little bit of time. I mean, I was going to start the conversation around being a Jersey Italian gymnast, and now you're moving to Chad's land, and I feel like my whole conversation starter's out the window. You're going to talk about Texas now.
My mom said I will never be a Texas girl. That's what she told me. She's like, you will always be a Jersey girl.
Yes, I'm in Oregon now. I'm still a Jersey guy, but where did you grow up in Jersey?
I grew up like up north, like almost in the woods.
Okay.
Byram, New Jersey. No one knows where
Okay.
that is when I say it.
And gymnastics, big part of your life growing up. Did you start at a pretty young age?
Yeah, so I started gymnastics when I was like 2 years old. Well, first I started with like all the stuff. It was like dance and softball and horseback riding and also like that. And then my family was like, you need to pick one. Like you
Uh-huh.
can't all. And I was like, I'm definitely gonna pick gymnastics. I need to flip.
Well, I think you picked the right sport. I mean, you ended up going pretty far with it. You ended up competing collegiately with it. We'll talk about that a little bit in terms of what happened with the gymnastics competitive career and everything. But this move to Austin, I know Chad's dying to jump in now. You're down the road from him now. What took you down to Texas?
I just kept coming back to, so during the pandemic, I was trying to find somewhere to work out. So I just kept going to On It here in Austin. And every time I would come, I would just like get a little, Airbnb. And for some reason, I just kept extending my stay. I knew nobody. So I would come, do my workouts, but I would just meet people. Everyone was so friendly. And there's just some energy here that was just super special. So to keep seeing myself extending the stays here. And then I was nomadic for a little while in between all of that and just found myself coming back here and back here. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I really feel like this place is home. There's just something super special about it's really the people. That's really what I feel like it's about. Like, it's beautiful here in Texas. There's like, lakes and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff you wouldn't think that would be in Texas for in Austin. But I really just think it's the people. It's the culture. It's people who are fit, entrepreneurs, all that stuff like that. And they're all very welcoming and excited. So I was like, this just feels like home.
I didn't realize that On It was like an actual gym facility. I thought it was just a brand. So you can actually go and have a membership and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Oh,
mean, again,
sweet.
I've been going there for God, the entire year now. I'm super close with everyone there. It's a very like family oriented spot. And what's cool about On It is it's like there's a lot of unconventional training in there, right? So they're doing some steel mace stuff and stuff along those lines. So it's pretty cool to like go in and just kind of play with some amazing people who are doing all sorts of stuff: powerlifting, gymnastics, steel mace, animal flow. It's like all in one encompassing space, which is really cool.
You got any weightlifting going on there, Chad? You ever go in and show them what you got?
Man, I tell you, I've known that the facility is there for a while and I haven't made it down yet. It's been on my to-do list, and really so many acquaintances moving into Austin now that I can't keep up anymore. I plan to go down there and see people and all that stuff, but my recluse nature keeps me from that a little bit, but I would love to go down there and check out the gym and hopefully run into you at some point, Angela.
Yes, make me lift.
Isn't Rogan down there now, and isn't he like a co-owner of On It as well? Has he ever come through and you got to work out with that guy?
I haven't seen him in like actually in the gym or anything like that, but I have seen his like shows and stuff like that in Austin, which were super cool. So, but yeah,
it might be worth us all taking a trip down there and come and hang out with you at some point.
Oh
Chad would love that. But let's get back to the East Coast. I feel like I've known you, or at least we've been in the same circles for a while now. Back in the day, training in New York at Solace, you would come through pretty regularly. And what was your time in the city like back then? Was that kind of like the first part of your fitness journey, being kind of exposed to those days back when CrossFit was kind of still new and fresh within the New York scene?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the New York scene. So before that, though, I owned a gym in Rhode Island. So I actually had my own facility there.
What kind of gym was it?
It was more of like a functional training facility. Okay. I had a little bit of ninja stuff in there because that's like my vibe. And then, a lot of like functional stuff in group classes and stuff along those lines. I actually started my classes originally in a gymnastics gym. So I was coaching all the young girls. And then the parents kept being like, I want to be strong. Like we love having your conditioning, stuff like that. And I'm like, why not? Like, why can't you be as strong as your kids? So I pulled them in and we started doing boot camp classes, and all of a sudden it like outgrew the space. So that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to actually open my own facility. So it was kind of cool to be able to like work with the kids and the parents and watch the parents and the kids get stronger together. And then after owning the gym for like a couple of years, as most of you know, I mean, it was not easy. And I almost felt like my love for training was going downhill, because I was just like, I'm so stressed out with owning the gym and like having to own a facility and be the janitor and the accountant and like all the different things. And I just really wanted to like just be with the people. So I actually shut it down. And then I moved into my dad's basement in New Jersey, and I was commuting into the city. And I was like, my goal here is just to go and learn as much as possible. So that's when you probably saw me at Solace. I was going to all the different gyms, just trying to learn from the best of the best and just really absorb all the knowledge that I could. And yeah, New York City for me was definitely just a lot about like networking and just, again, going in with an open mind, like not going in and being like, I know everything, going in and being like, I don't know anything. And I want to learn from all these different people and like what they do.
Yeah, I think Chad, being a former affiliate owner yourself, some of the ins and outs of what it means to be a gym owner. I think sometimes people glamorize it a little bit and make it seem to be this incredible lifestyle, but you end up wearing a ton of hats and you end up doing a lot of things you didn't anticipate doing. And Chad, I'd like to get, what was your take about being a gym owner? Did you kind of feel that same way?
I mean, the exact same way. She, just listening to her say those few sentences about it brought back some rough memories, and absolutely relate and can understand why you kind of shut it down and took a different course. And so it's a tough gig. There's no doubt about it. And the ones that are still out there doing it and making it successful, my hat goes off to them for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the thing that when you come across a gym that's doing it well and you find an owner that has great coaching and is able to kind of find all the little pieces and all the little details to make it work well, you're right, hats off, like impressive to see. That's what we're always kind of scoping out and searching not only the country but the world for those CrossFit gyms and those functional fitness spaces that really do it well. But the Ninja Warrior stuff, this has exploded over the last probably 5 to 10 years. And, there's been so many gymnasts that have been, visible within the space, become kind of, I feel like gymnasts and rock climbers seem to be the ones that do the best when it comes to that stuff. How did you, and pole vaulters. All right.
Yeah.
People who kind of grip onto things and hang and are used to flying high.
Well, the weightlifters don't want to take over another sport yet, so that's why we haven't been.
Oh, can we please get Chad on an episode of Ninja Warrior? For anyone, any producers out there listening, I would love to.
I would love to have him, probably.
Yeah, Chad, let's do it. There's
I'll
definitely
make it
an
through,
Austin
like,
audition.
one swing off of one bar, but my grip's gonna be dead after that. That's about all I got. My
Oh,
quads
come on,
and my quads are too big, man. Too big.
But we got to at least get one weightlifter. You or Service out there. Vanessa would kick ass at it. She'd probably be great.
Yeah.
But how did you get exposed to it? Was this something you kind of fell in love with like right away?
So it honestly was a complete accident. And I always tell people that, like, I'm basically an accidental ninja. I literally was doing fitness competitions before this. So that's like, I did college gymnastics, and I was like super bored when I got into working my real job. And I was just like, I need something to do. So I went into fitness competitions, which is where you like flip around on the stage. And then you do the posing too. So I'm like, okay, cool. There's basically a gymnastics routine in here. So like, I'm into it. So I did that. And one of my mentors was actually trying out for the show, and she asked me to help her create. You have to create a submission video. And I was really good. Like, I love working with videography and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'll totally help you. So I didn't know what she was trying out for. We went into this gym. It was an obstacle course facility. It was super cool. And while we were doing it, I was working with my friend. He was like, you really should do this. Like, you were literally a bar specialist. Like, you'd probably crush this. And I'm like, no, like, I'm like, I can't step on my mentor's toes. This is like her thing now. And like, whatever. I was always like a very humble, like, I don't want to, you know, take over what she's doing. And they're like, just put in a video. So last minute, we like threw together a video at the end of like her doing hers. And I just randomly got selected. Like, I was at a fitness competition that, like, the number calls me, and I'm just like, this is probably spam. And they're like, you made it to Ninja Warrior. And I was like, oh no. And they're like, we need you in 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh no. Like, I need to figure this out. So within like those 2 weeks, I like was on Instagram and online. I think it was Facebook at the time. And I was just like, somebody help me. I need to learn how to ninja. And there was people in the area. I don't know if you've ever been to Rhode Island. There's this awesome gym there. Why can't I think of the name of it? It's an awesome, Laid Back Ninja. It's called Laid Back Ninja. It's a really interesting facility. And they actually had built a gym in like some back space in Rhode Island outside. They're like, come to the woods and we'll train you. And I'm like, this is sketchy. So we're going to go do that. So I went into the woods for like 2 weeks, and I was just training out there, like learning
like
this
Rocky.
better. What's that?
Sounds like Rocky training. That's great. Out in the woods, middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Just kind of figure it out type of thing. And I was, and I remember them telling me, like, after I did it, they were like, we were concerned about you, because I literally just had no idea what I was doing. But after that, and after going to compete, the first competition I did was in Pittsburgh, I really fell in love, not only with the sport in general, but I fell in love with the people as well. It's like, everybody there is just trying to get one, like, they just want one person to get through the course. They don't care who it is. And you're there in a room with, young kids. At the time, it was like 19 and up, like 19-year-olds. And you're also there with like 40, 50-year-olds. And so you're in this awesome group of everybody just trying to help each other, much like CrossFit and stuff like that. You always see like the different ages and how cool it is that everyone has something in common together. So I really became obsessed with it after that. And then I was like, this is the next thing. I was like, I'm tired of like not eating and flipping around on stage. I'm ready to eat and be strong.
I love it. And I mean, most gymnastics gyms at this point have now transitioned to having some kind of Ninja Warrior course in their gym. Like, it's become such a phenomenon that gyms are opening up just separate locations and turning it into, because gymnastics is what it is, but like, this has become the hot new thing within the gymnastics world. And it's cool to see gymnasts like yourself have a new avenue to be able to show off your skills. John Horton and so many other big names within the gymnastics space, Danelle Leyva, a bunch of the guys from the Olympic team have been doing that as well. Is it a close-knit community? I'm curious, like at the level of the people that are kind of on the show pretty regularly, do you know each other? Or does it happen so much around the country that it's only in these little regional pockets that you guys get to know each other?
A good chunk of us know each other, which is really awesome. And what's really cool about that is, just like anything, like, you can literally go to any state, be like, where's the Ninja Gym, and probably connect with somebody on Instagram and go meet them. And you all have this stuff in common where you're training. Most of the adults train like super late at night. So I was training at like 9 p.m. most of the time, which is like awful for me. I hate nights. So I was like, okay, cool. We're all training like super late at night. And again, just trying to get through those obstacles that whatever they set up that day in a sketchy manner, like, can we get through it? So yeah, very tight knit community. it's much different now, which is super unfortunate. Like I haven't really, I decided not to do it this year, and I got asked to do it last year. I didn't do it last year either. Things are very much changing. But when I was doing it originally, yes, everyone was super close. Everybody knows everybody, and everyone's excited to bring you into their gym or take you to their backyard gym that they have.
So I want to know a little bit more about what's coming next. You say you haven't done it in a while, but in terms of training for it, what was the hardest part for you in terms of what was the training like? Like what was the thing that you struggled with the most in terms of being able to overcome? It seems like it's almost impossible to finish the course or to win. It's like just going the furthest is kind of what people try to achieve. But for you, was it something that really stuck out as like, I know I'm never gonna be able to do this, or is my height a limitation? What's the big limiting factor for you?
I mean, the height was definitely tough because there's like they're not changing the obstacles for your height. Like if you're in there and you're short, they have testers go through it at all different heights, but they don't care. Like they're just like, okay, cool. So you have to really, really push. So definitely height played a huge factor when doing it. I think the other thing for most ninjas that was tough is like not overtraining, because you want to just keep like doing like the grippy stuff all the time, and you really need to be smart about it. Like you really need to make sure that you're like, I started dividing my days into like one day is like a skill day and like learning different obstacles. One day is a full course day. Cause just like a gymnastics routine, right? You might be able to do all the pieces of it, but then when you put it all together, it's like, oh man, like this is actually like way harder. So I really made sure to divide my days into like, okay, cool. I've got a day where I'm working on some skills. I got a day where I'm putting it all together. I got a day where I'm only working on agility. Agility is the hardest for me. I'm like my lower body like hates me. So I'm just like, okay. But so the upper body stuff is more fun, but I think being really smart and strategic about the training was a big piece of it. Cause what a lot of the people who went in there were probably way better than me, but didn't make it further than me because I was way smarter about, I'm going to recover. I'm going to stick to my plan. I know what I need to do. I need to be able to lâcher really big. I need to be able to have agility and fast feet. I need to be able to get up the wall. And I focus on those main components so that, you know, I could go in and conquer whatever obstacle they threw in there.
Do they tell you the obstacle beforehand at all?
Before like that day. So like
Okay.
that day you'll go in and they'll do a briefing. You won't know anything before that. Before it was inside, like it's inside now, it was outside all these years. We used to spy on it. So we would have people literally would be out there for a week while they were setting it up, and they'd be binocularing it. And once they would see what kind of they were building, they would replicate it within like 2 days. And we would be in the gyms with these like sketchy replicated versions of like what they created. So that's the only way we kind of knew. Like there was a couple times where I literally could not believe what they threw together in a local gym like the day before, because they saw what it looked like. I'm like, how did you do this?
I love it.
Now, when you're training for Ninja, are you also still doing, say, CrossFit or anything else on the side, or are you just solely focused on a program that is specifically for getting through that course?
I was solely focused on the programming. And then like when I was doing it, when I was in New York City, I would take a couple of the Solace classes because those were great for like endurance training and stuff like that. But I was very careful. Like I wasn't like, before that, I'd be like pushing myself really hard because it was just in the class and like, why not? And then I put my ego aside for a lot of it when I would go to certain classes and be like, I'm not going to push as hard because I know that I need my body to work in a different way for the course.
Right. And now here's the real question. How many ninjas are using weightlifting as part of their training?
I want to say probably not a lot. Like we're not weightlifting, but we are like, again, I was really strategic with my training, and especially for my legs. Like I was squatting, I was doing those things, maybe not crazy heavy, right? But being smart about making it a way where you're lifting, but then adding the endurance into it. So for me, a lot of like, I'm going to do some squats and then do some like broad jumps, you know, like right after it to kind of do some explosive movements and stuff like that. So I just, again, incorporating it in a different way, because for someone who's trying to train as a power lifter to lift really heavy, they're going to train much differently than me, who has to be like really, you know, be able to move really fast with things.
Nice. Any specific training for Ninja going on right now? Do you have plans to do that again?
I didn't, they got accepted last year and I didn't do it. And this year I decided not to do it. I just feel like I'm headed in a different direction, which is okay with me. And it was really hard for me to just like when you leave college gymnastics, your identity's that. It was really hard for me to leave that identity behind. Just like when I did fitness competitions, I was like, oh man, I was a fitness competitor for 3 or 4 years. I have top titles in there. Like, do I leave? It's kind of feeling like the next move is to transition out of it. Would I do it again? I mean, probably, maybe, but it's not like my top priority right now.
For sure. If anybody came to you wanting you to train them hardcore ninja would you do that?
I probably could, but I feel like there's other people who are probably more qualified in doing it more and more passionate about it. And for me, a lot of the things that I've been doing now, it's like I always question myself with everything, like how passionate am I about it? Because I want to make sure that if it's for that person, I want to make sure I can drive them and help them the best that I can. What I am super passionate right now is helping people get pull-ups, women specifically. I've gotten over 500 women their first pull-up, which is exciting. And that a lot of times is a starting point to a lot of people who are trying to get into ninja, who then I can then push to, the right person or the right thing or the right program for it. But for me, I'm really in love with that beginning process of someone starting from literally zero. I think it's really cool to see them conquer things they think are impossible.
So kind of creating a program for you seem to work specifically with women right now, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? And a lot of them, like you said, getting them their first pull-up or their first movement. And so you're probably encountering a lot of women who are intimidated by fitness or have never been active, or, you're their first initiation into what it's like to live a more fit lifestyle. So what do you do to be able to make them believe that you can get something out of them that maybe they don't believe themselves? Like, is there something you do initially to be able to say, hey, you know what? I believe in you right now because, well, I've had success with this number of people beforehand, but is it something that you use as a tool to be able to convince someone that they're probably capable of more than they think?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's tough. At first, it starts with them. Obviously, a lot of people who come in already basically trust me just from all the testimonials and stuff like that I've had, and the journey that I've taken people on from literally, again, hanging and doing nothing to like cranking them out. So I think a lot of them are just like, okay, cool. They can kind of tell. Someone told me like I'm intimidating, but I'm approachable. So I feel like I have that like, okay, I'm friendly, but like I'm gonna like make you work. Like I'm not messing around. So I feel like that's really helpful. I also think that for me, the programs, we start off in a very friendly manner where we're really, showing them like what they can do, but not really telling them about the end goal. I know it sounds wild. Like the end goal is obviously to get your pull up, right? But as anything in life, the end goal is great, but the destination to get there is the most important part, right? So we actually break it up into phases. So I have 8 phases of pull up. So when they come in, the first goal is to just get a bend in the elbow. Like that's it. Like we're not trying to go all the way up. And I think what that does is help them be like, okay, cool. Now I have like these little itty bitty steps to getting myself towards the pull up, instead of being super intimidating and being like, you got to get your pull up all the way up in like 7 days. You know what I mean? It's like, nope, your goal is to get a bend. You're only going to focus on that. Like, that's it. Then they get the bend, they get excited. It's a win. Okay, cool. Now your goal is to get a little bit higher. Let's see if we can get you eye level to the bar. Okay, cool. Then it starts to become more possible because we broke it up into little steps. So I feel like that's what makes it really easy. And that's why people, I think, come to me, especially females and stuff like that. And a lot of women that are coming to me are like in their 50s. So I just had a 53-year-old do in 90 days. She got 5 pull-ups. She came in to get 1 pull-up. She's 5 now. And she literally told me yesterday, she was like, I literally couldn't do this in high school. And I 100% thought it was impossible, but you broke it up and I just followed and trusted. And I was able to do this impossible thing. Now she wants to do handstands. Like, I love that. I'm like, now you're like, this opens the door for like, you got your pull up. Maybe you can do handstands. Maybe you can do a marathon. Maybe you can work at kettlebells or try weightlifting. It's like all those things that used to feel impossible, once you do that one thing, is now way more possible.
I love that. I mean, it's all about incremental gains. It's all about, like you said, the journey, take pride in the process, all the things that we preach endlessly within Power Monkey, and the things that you've probably learned as well in the gymnastics world, because the end result is there. I mean, it's something to strive towards, but, making a collegiate team, making an Olympic team, competing at a high level, learning a high level skill, these things don't happen overnight, right? And so all of those progressions, I think, are things that are so critical. I'm sure you've taken so much what you learned in the gymnastics world and are now applying it into the programs that you're teaching.
Yeah, it's very much like you just said too. Like in gymnastics, my favorite part about gymnastics is when your coach made you do the drills over and over again, and you really didn't know what the drills are for. Like, at least I didn't know like some of the drills we were doing. I'm like, I don't know why we're doing this. Like, this makes no sense. And then all of a sudden they show you, okay, cool, now you're ready. Now let's put it all together. And all of a sudden, because you did all those little drills that you had no idea what you're doing for, you're now, doing your souk, or you're doing, your giant, or whatever it is. And, or you're doing, for me, I think the biggest one was the free hip. It was like the back extension roll stuff, like drills and stuff like that. And yeah, I definitely feel like I've taken all of that learning and put it into these people so that they can, again, break it up into little steps. And again, they may not understand a lot of it on the way. but then it all clicks once they get it.
Yeah, that Chad, I feel like it's a similar process in weightlifting. Maybe the movements aren't as complex in terms of, trust me, snatch, clean, jerk, incredibly complex, but I'm not trying to minimize those movements, even though my legs are very similar to Angela's and they don't like me. But the process is the same, right? Like the movement is all about breaking it down into its more fundamental steps. I think that's why you focus so much on the squat, because if we can get someone to squat well, it will allow them to move better within all of the other lifts. Is that kind of the approach that you're taking? Is that why the emphasis for you, Chad, is so much on making that squat kind of the basis of all of your lifts?
Yeah, the base for sure. And I would say that really to get someone to snatch is, especially if they've deadlifted before, is really pretty easy. I mean, it's the simplest form of it is you're moving it from the ground to over your head. So it's really pretty easy to get someone to do that. But to perfect it, now we're talking about those incremental steps where we need to perfect your squat. We need to adjust your start position and make you aware and strong, and step-by-step process, and keeping things simple for people too. You know, it's really easy as a coach or a teacher or in programming to overwhelm someone, you know. So I love what you were talking about there, Angela, and saying, you know, you didn't even really, maybe they understand that the end goal is a pull up, but you're not really stating that on a daily basis. You know, you're just breaking it down and you're trying to get them to this one first step. And so, you know, giving them one thing to focus on. And what I try to get people to do all the time with anything that I'm working on them with is to have freedom from that end goal, freedom from the end result. So you're not just sitting there dwelling on it all the time. Yeah, it's a goal. Yeah, you understand that it's maybe where you're hoping to head or what's possible, but what can I do now this day in this moment to head towards that? And what can that athlete do to, like you said, Angela, have some success and build on that success every single day? So your process, I love it. Spot on.
Thank you. I also was just thinking, I was like rethinking about when I was at Power Monkey Camp and we were at the snatch station, and you did put all the drills, like we did exactly what we're saying now. We put all the drills together in order, and I'd never snatched before, like ever. And I remember when we finally put it all together, and I was like, wow, this is actually like really fun. I actually was able to get it up there. And it was funny because I think a year later I tried it again, but we didn't do any drills. And I was just like, oh, like kind of cocky, like I got this or whatever. And someone asked me like one time, my most embarrassing moment in the gym, it was this. I was like with all these like high CrossFit athletes, I'm like, I got this. I learned from the best. Like I can still do it. I didn't do any drills. And I remember I snatched up and I fell. Everybody, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I need to go back to all those drills. But the drills that we did, I remember that day just feeling so smooth because we did all the prep work beforehand. So I just want to commend you for that, because that was really great.
Well, hey, I still fall on my ass every now and then. So we all get knocked on our ass, and we need to every now and then. But I wanted to, reading through your bio and stuff, you were a biochemist at one point, right? In a former life, it seems at this point, because it seems like you're so far away from that. But I wonder, in all the schooling that you did for that, and I'm not sure how long you worked in that field, but all the things that you did in that field as a biochemist, have you been able to take anything from that to help you in what you now do, which is helping other people?
So funny. Yeah. So I originally got into biochemistry because I really wanted to help people also. Like I wanted to like, do studies and do research and see if I can make different compounds to help people who are sick and things along those lines. What I started to realize when I was working at Brown University, and then I was working at an actual pharmaceutical company, which is like large scale like situations. And I was really starting to notice that like, they're really not helping the way they could. It's all like about money and all that stuff like that. But I think what I did take away from it is that I'm very big on data. And I think that really helps the people as well, right? So every program that I have with the people I work with, they have a strength test that they do. To me, that's the data. That's like, we're going to fill out exactly where you're at right now. And they do that same exact test at the end of their 30 days or wherever they're at. And I think because I was a scientist, it helps me, because I'm like, okay, clearly, like if this is working, then you're going to increase your number. And if it's not, no big deal. But then we have to readjust. It was the same exact thing in science that we had to do all the time. So we kept everything the same, and then we literally just retest at the end. So I almost feel like working with certain people, it's like it's an experiment in a way. So it literally is taking what I learned from there and bringing it in. As for like actually using it in just, you know, physical wise, I don't think that, yeah, I feel like for me, it was interesting going from like pharmaceutical biochemistry and stuff like that. I just learned how much like the body needs these natural things like working out, eating right, and stuff like that. And like all this extra stuff, again, it's great for like, you know, if they're trying to, you know, prevent cancer and stuff like that. But I think the biggest healing part for the body is actually just movement, movement and taking care of your body and your brain.
But you are capable of creating a potion that will allow someone to get a pull up in one day, though, right?
Exactly. Come to my program. You'll drink this potion.
One day.
One day.
Well, one of the things you mentioned in there that I think is interesting, we had CJ Martin on the podcast not that long ago, and we were talking about this transition from a different life into fitness. You know, he had been a lawyer, and then he became, you know, founder of Invictus, and a big superstar he is in the coaching world now. And this idea of people preaching this, follow your passion, how that can sometimes get people caught into a situation. It's not always great because someone's passion might not lead to a financially successful career. And sometimes people can throw away something that, you know, led to a pretty successful life and into something that really doesn't. You went from, you know, probably being pretty secure in, you know, your biochemistry world, having, you know, done that in college, a career, you had something secure, and then you went completely into fitness. Obviously you were a gymnast and things like that, but that's a pretty big transition. Like what made you feel like this is right for me? And how long did it take for you to be able to know that this was the right path? Like, I'm sure it was not the financial aspect that you went after, but what led you to make that big jump?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super valid. And it's so funny. I'm actually doing a workshop tonight on like the process and like that whole situation. Cause I think what people see is, you know, just like the shiny object of like, okay, cool. Like you see somebody going from 0 to 1 pull-up, so you didn't see the in-between moments. I think the in-between moments are really, really important. And actually there's this quote, and I'm writing a book, and this is the first quote in the book. And it's, when one door closes, the other one opens, but no one talks about the hallway in between, and that dark hallway that you're going to go down. And that's literally what I had to go through after this job. So I literally started with the biochemistry. I had the 401k and the safety and the whatever, and they were just throwing money at me. And I'm like, okay, like whatever, to, okay, I know this is not for me. I'm super unhappy. What can I do to like set myself up for success? And so before I left, I actually saved up a lot. So my goal was, I'm going to save up at least 3 to 4 months rent and for whatever I actually need before I make the transition. Because what the deal is, if you just quit right away, like it sounds glamorous and stuff, but you still need to pay your bills. And then you're going to wind up having to do something you don't like anyway to like make that money. And it's going to actually make it harder for you to reach your goal because you're now still stressed out about like money is a big thing, right? And like you need to have it in order to continue things. So I saved up like 4 months of rent, I think, or so. And then when I got out, I transitioned into coaching gymnastics, which was making like $15 an hour, whatever, 18 maybe, something like that. And I just kept like piling that money on top of what I had. So like I had a good amount of security there, but then like obviously life happens, right? Your car breaks down, something happens, you need to move somewhere, all this stuff happens. So I definitely had a hard time financially for a while. And especially when I first started those bootcamp classes with the parents, there was one person showing up for like a good 3 or 4 months. And I was like, I'm screwed. Like, I remember being like, this is not working. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I think that, you know, setting yourself for success in that manner, like whether it be like you have some money or whether you move back into your parents' place for a little bit to save or whatever, like so that you can actually go after your dream and attack it. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. The reason I think it worked for me later on is because I literally stuck through that hard moment. I stuck through that moment of being like, I don't know if this is going to work, honestly. And I just stayed a little bit longer and I made some changes. And that's when, you know, things started coming in. But again, money wise, it still was really tough. When I owned that gym, I was not like, I was zero, like for sure, like just paying myself enough. And I feel like I only really started making like really good money with like my passion and my dream until probably like 2 years ago when I turned everything online. and I got smarter along those ends, had lower overhead and things along those lines. So it really does take time. So as long as you're willing and able to go through that tough moment, and you're able to be a little smart about how it goes, you'll be able to be successful in it. But it does not happen overnight. And I'm sure you saw that with like Power Monkey and the things that you do too, right? It's like people probably see all the stuff you do then, but they probably didn't see the beginning stages of.
Oh, we're still going down that long dark hallway.
Mhm.
So
Yes, you're in the hallway.
Agreed.
we're in the middle of that hallway for sure, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
so
Chad is.
like, and honestly, you never fully arrive, right? You really don't. You don't ever fully actually arrive to your destination. So you got to get comfortable and excited in that hallway. You got to get, you got to lean into the uncomfortable moments. You got to be like, okay, cool, and that's like what makes it fun, right? I mean, if it was easy, like I feel like we wouldn't probably appreciate it as much. My friend and I were just talking the other day about how, like, we were wondering why like child stars and all this stuff like that just like throw their lives away and they're miserable. We're like, when in our eyes, we're like, wow, you have money in the house and everything. And I think it's because they didn't have to go through the hallway in that sense. You appreciate it more, and you experience more when you have to go through this stuff. So if you look at it like that, but yeah, being smart, and again, saving or just like cutting corners, don't feel bad about, again, I had to move back into my dad's basement for a year. Like that didn't feel great, but I knew that's what I needed to do to reach the dreams and do the things that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some sacrifices along with that. Chad, you want to say something from?
I was just gonna say I'd love to move back in with my parents for a couple years to save some money and get caught up and
they
be able
feed
to,
you. In New Jersey, they feed you. I'm like,
yeah. I mean,
I'm like, wow, you're feeding me? This is great.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? My mom begs every day for us to move back in with her.
Yeah.
She would love. She's like, Everybody Loves Raymond. I don't know if you guys remember that show, but it's like this Italian family where the brothers, everybody lives like within 3 minutes of each other. It's my mom's favorite show. She's like, I want everybody to live on the same street.
Oh yeah.
Everybody move back to New Jersey, live on the same street. So
I'd be having my mom tuck me into bed every night and everything else, read me a bedtime story. It'd be awesome.
Now, Angela, obviously you talked about the challenges and the struggles and how that, we talk about a lot. That's part of the process, and you got to be able to appreciate kind of those downtimes as, learning experiences and, becoming part of who you are. And some of that is injuries. And, listening to your story and reading up a little bit more, resonated with me quite a bit because I had very similar paths with my injuries, and you had a bunch of blown out ACLs over the years. And I've had 3 in my time, and I know what the recovery is, and it's one of the reasons why my legs are so pathetic. But can you talk a little bit about your injury path and the path to recovery as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've blown both of my ACLs out. The first time was in college. That was like 2010, I believe. That was the first injury I'd ever gotten. So gymnastics, that was my life. Like I literally went to that school for biochemistry, but literally for that gymnastics team. I went there to be a part of a team. It also was a place for me to, my home life wasn't bad, but my parents were like divorced and all this stuff was happening in my family. So like that 4 walls of gymnastics was my space to be, it was like my utopia. Like nothing else mattered. My coach used to be like, nothing else matters right now. It's just focusing on your skills. And that's like why I loved it so much. So when I got injured, I was a mess. Like I had always, first of all, identified as an athlete. That's all I knew. And then all of a sudden, like you can't use your leg anymore. And it's, again, being a major injury like that, you're like, what do I turn to? So honestly, the first ACL tear was in college. So I'm like, I guess I'm going to party because like, that's what everyone else is doing. Like there was really nothing else around that was showing any other healthy things that you could do. So I went out a lot. I was partying a lot. Quickly realized like that's not a great path. Like that doesn't make you feel better about anything. You don't, if anything, like feel worse. And then I kind of snapped out of it towards the end, and I was like, all right, cool. I hired a trainer with the money I was making from the lab, and I was like, I want you to work out my upper body. Like that's what I got. So like, can you help me with that while this is recovering? So came back to gymnastics. Was able to do 1 more year, but I just not the way I wanted to. Skill wise, I just didn't have everything back. Was able to throw the skill that I hurt myself. I tore it on a double full, which I feel like a lot of people do. So I tore it on my double full. So I was able to come back and do that, but just never felt like I had it back. And that's why I turned to fitness competitions after. I was like, okay, cool. I can so I was able to really get my strength back for my knee after college and stuff like that. But then the worst case scenario was I'm an American Ninja Warrior. I'm so excited. I'm actually like on the path to being a top female. I'm crushing the course. All I have to do is one obstacle. I got to finish the wing nuts. It's a side to side obstacle. And I jump up there and I'm like looking at my coach, like, I got this. This is so easy. Like, so get through the obstacle. I go to dismount. Since it's a sideway obstacle, I must have turned a little bit weird or like cut like too late and blew my knee out right on national television. The other one. And I remember just like holding my knee and just being like, oh my goodness, like why me? Like why again? Like this can't be true. All the thoughts went through my head. And again, still identifying myself as an athlete of some sort. And it still literally went from like, I'm a gymnast, I'm a fitness competitor, I'm a ninja. So this time instead, I mean, I sat in myself. I definitely got in a dark, like talk about a dark hallway, dark place during that moment. Cause I had owned a gym at that point. I didn't know, I was modeling and stuff at that time too. I'm like, I can't do any of that now. Like everything is now negative. I can't do anything. So I definitely had a dark place where I honestly like just didn't want to live anymore. And that sounds so wild because you're like, it's an ACL tear, but it's like, that was your life. And when your life is gone and you feel like you have nothing left. And I didn't have I didn't have family or anything like that. It's like, it's gone. So I sat in it for a while, got into my dark place. One of my mentors came up to me and said, listen, I see you're stuck and you've been stuck for a while. Like I see it. You can be stuck, but I don't want you to stay stuck there. Like you can have that moment, feel it. You need to feel this, feel what you need to feel. And I think that was a great advice for me because I felt like when you're a strong person who owns a gym and does this stuff, you almost don't want to feel it. You want to be that strong person. And if you're not the strong person, you feel like people are looking down on you. But I think by somebody saying and allowing and giving me permission to be like, no, feel it. You need to like feel like shit right now. You need to, but don't get stuck in that mindset. And then this time the comeback was much different because instead of me, going out and partying and I'm like, you know what, I'm focusing on what I can't do. I can't do this. I can't do that. What can I do that I couldn't have done before? So that's when I started focusing on my mindset. Who am I outside of athletics? Like I'm much more than just a ninja, much more than just a gym owner. Who am I? So I really dug deep into the mindset piece of it actually on my second time around. And then the recovery, I tried to have some fun with that. I was like, you know what? I can use my upper body. I can use my core. I can get better with all those different things. I really focused on that. And then I started focusing on, I was posting it on social media at that time, like Instagram. I didn't even know what it become. And people started messaging me and they said, you know what, you posted you hanging from a bar, flipping your crutches with the brace on. And that made me see that, I got on a car accident or I got this, I did that there is, you can still have fun and still, enjoy these like down moments. And that's when it really clicked for me that this injury the second time around was not about me at all. And it was actually about who I can help after this. So I really posted it about the journey. I took the time and I put it into meditation, like getting my mindset right. And when I came back on that course, a lot of people, I, again, wasn't as strong as most of the people who came back, but my mindset was right. And that's why I crushed the second time around. It was because of the mindset. And you actually see that in a lot of like NFL athletes, right? They'll say that they had their like best season after they came back from an injury. And I do feel like it's when they make that click of what they can do and the opportunity it gives them.
I mean, that's an amazing story. And I mean, I commend you on being able to turn an injury into an opportunity. And I think that's what we try to preach as well, as saying like, everything that happens to you is an opportunity, and it just depends on how you look at it. And I want to see if we can dive a little bit deeper into this idea of being identifying yourself in a particular way. All of us here identified ourselves as an athlete at a high level. And when you dedicate yourself, full years of your life up to the point when your career is over, to being that athlete, you don't really know what you are without it. And, we talk about this a lot with other people too, but when it doesn't have to be an athlete, it can be anything where you identify yourself only as a thing. When it's taken away from you, you get a little bit lost, and your injury did that to you. And you seem to have come out of it stronger. And you mentioned this idea of like just changing my mindset and being able to focus on the things that I am outside of being an athlete. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing for someone who has identified as one thing to now say, okay, I'm this completely other person suddenly because of an injury. What allowed you to transition mindset wise into saying, I was an athlete, but I can become something else and something better because this happened to me, and now I'm ready for that next phase or that next chapter.
Yeah. Again, like it wasn't easy, again, still in that hallway. Right. And it's like, I still sometimes have issues with that, right? Like not identifying myself with like being the pull-up person or stuff like that. So it's always coming back to, again, who you are as a person. So I think a big piece of that, what really helped me is I was sitting down, I had to write out, one of my coaches had told me to write out my strengths, my weaknesses, what I like, what I don't like a lot of, like really like sitting down and like really identifying all those different pieces of me. And it took me a while to figure that out. At first, when I was looking at my paper of like, what do I like outside of my gymnastics or ninja, like the paper was blank. I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, what else do like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know. Like I flip around like all the time. And then you start to like notice in the day, like, oh, I actually really like conspiracy theories. So like you write that down. Okay, cool. That's a piece of me that's different from athletics, right? So I think it's like just really taking the time, and I had to sit down and really notice those things. And it took a while. Like the pages were blank for the longest time. And it was just like me always coming back to when I found something that I really liked and like putting it on a piece of paper. Again, being an athlete can be a great piece of you and a part of you, and that's great, but that's not only what you are. Like you are so much more than that. You're more than a coach, or like for mom, you're more than a mom, you're more than like all those different things. But yeah, I think it really sat me like literally basically sitting in my shit, looking at the paper, trying to go through and I was trying different things. Like, let me go outside, let me go for a walk, let me kind of like, reconnect with like nature and things along those lines. Again, it was a lot of like digging in order to find that. Again, I think what really helped me along the process was that when I posted, people were replying, and that sounds wild, but like literally the hope that I was giving other people that I didn't even realize I was giving, because I was literally posting for myself. Like I was posting those messages I was posting, it wasn't for anyone at first but myself, to help myself through it. Like here I am, whatever. Like those, a lot of times people say that they're talking to their younger selves or things along those lines with like a book or anything along those lines. That's definitely like what I was doing. I also think it comes back to purpose. When you figure out what your true purpose is, and realize that it's even more than that. And again, it takes a while to figure out what that purpose is and things along those lines. That really helps, because I think when you don't have that purpose in line, it's dangerous. So I think, again, my purpose became more like, I'm here to help and serve people and to help them along their journeys by showing how I overcame adversity. So I think a lot of that helps. So it's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of digging. And I think these moments we go through are ways to help. If you stop and you're like, okay, here I am again, I've been here before. Like, what can I do with this? I think that you'll be, when you sit in it a little bit longer, like the answer is right there for you with what your purpose is and what you're thinking for.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure all that out myself, and I'm in quite denial of not being a high level athlete anymore. Which is why I still compete, Dave. That's the whole reason.
Sure.
I'm in denial.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I identified in the same way. It was very difficult to be able to step away from the sport. I fortunately, injuries and my advanced age within the sport led me to just know that I wasn't able to do that anymore as an athlete. But there is this moment, I moved to Italy. I said, I'm getting the hell out of here and moving away from the sport as far away as I possibly could. And I didn't want to have anything to do with the sport for a long time, to help me figure out who am I outside of being identified as an athlete. And, Angela, we were talking about, digging deep and writing things out. It took a long time. It took me close to 18 months to figure out a path that kind of resonated with me outside of being identified as Dave the gymnast. And I've come back to be Dave the gymnast at some component, more of the coach side of things, but it's not easy. And sounds like you did a lot of it on your own, but the community through social media kind of helped you. But I don't think it's the kind of thing you can do on your own. Like, you need people around you as much as possible to help fill in some gaps and help kind of, people to lean on. You had some mentors to be able to say, all right, I'm going to lead you down this hallway, or, give you some tools to be able to help out. Did you find that to be the case, that you actually need people around you to be able to help with this journey outside of being identified as one thing?
Absolutely. I mean, you definitely need to surround yourself with people who are going to who are going to support you through that. They're going to be able to be in the shit with you, right? Because you may not be like pleasant to be around during that, like at all. But yeah, I think once you surround yourself with the right people, it's that helps a lot. That's what helped me a lot in New York City. I was still overcoming my second injury when I was in New York City, training at Salt, stuff like that. That was still my recovery. And I just decided to, again, I also use social to find the people that I'm like, I want to be like them and I want to feel like them. And I went into that room and I was around those people, and just that energy of them like gave off onto me. If you're around a bunch of people who are like in a pity party, you're going to be in the pity party too, and you're not going to leave there. So if you can get yourself around the people who are like, you know, doing something and going to that next phase, and that is super important. Finding somebody to help you. Also, like, asking the people around you. I mean, there's some people around you who just won't get it. Like my mom will never get it because she's just never had something like this before. So that's understandable as well. But there's probably more people around you that are willing to help if you just open up and you allow yourself to be a little bit more vulnerable with how you're feeling. And they can at least help, you know, maybe lead you in the right direction with like that one word. But I always notice is sometimes there's like that one word from that one person, like somebody else might have said it to me, but somebody else said it to me in a different way, and for some reason it resonated more. So you just gotta have to like keep on with the fight. But you don't need to do it alone. You really, really don't, and you're not alone. And I think that's what's really important to know throughout the process. Like even with all the fancy stuff and the highlight reels you see on Instagram, every single person is going through some shit, and they could probably relate in some way. So I feel like it's so important to ask and to, again, get yourself in front of those people.
It's a great thing to pass along. I love it. Before we finish here, I got to ask a little bit more about Power Monkey Camp, because, you know, you touched on it. You only talked about the snatch station, which is actually Service leading the snatch station too. So, I mean, he's not even, I don't give that guy too much love, but first, why did you decide to come to camp, and what was the overall experience for you? What was it like?
So I think Power Monkey was on one. It's so funny. I'm going through because I'm doing a goal setting workshap. I think it was on my vision board. I put Power Monkey on my vision board. I saw it. I can't remember where I saw it. And I was like, I need to go to this. It seems like basically an adult camp, which is great, with fit people. I'm like, this is literally my people. So that's like part of the reason that I wanted to go. And mind you, like we said, I'm not a CrossFitter. I'm not a weightlifter. So I think that was like at first a little bit intimidating. I'm like, am I gonna fit in? Like, but I saw there was like gymnasts and different types of people there. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I definitely want to go. And then I was working at Soho Strength Lab at the time with Albert.
Yeah.
And Albert was like, you need to go to this. Like, I think that you would love this. So he helped me get there, which is great. And yeah, I mean, the experience was great. I honestly didn't want to leave. I thought it was so awesome.
None of us do.
Yeah, it's right. Like every time you go, like the stations were great because everyone broke everything down in English, basically like very slowly so that you were able to see each piece. So like I got my first ring muscle up there, never done one before. But just from the drills was able to pop up on those. The food is also amazing every time. I was like, this is great. I'm being fed and working out all day. Like this is fantastic. So yeah, I think that for me, it was like, oh, cool. Like I'm going to be around some really cool people who have a lot of similar interests as me. And was also, again, really cool was like, some people came in and had experience in like weightlifting and stuff, but nobody ever like looked down upon me. They were always really helpful. And I think that just made it like even better. And that again, also reflected on me because that showed me that like, I want to be that person that those people were for me as well. Right. They were helping me. If I know something, I want to help somebody who doesn't know something and help them feel comfortable. But yeah, Power Monkey was the best.
Love it.
Well, I think we need to get Angela back just to tell a campfire story. That was one of the best campfire stories I've ever heard.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'll teach some pull-ups.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you know we have, I don't know if you came across it, but there's a Ninja Warrior course in the woods there. Did you know that?
I did. I think when we were there, it wasn't open or something. Because
yeah, it's normally not for the adults, like part of the kids camp in the summers, but I'm sure we could have made it an exception for you to be able to show off your skills and got out in the middle of the woods. It's like, you know, I'm going to bring up a reference here that most people don't know, but American Anthem is the greatest gymnastics movie ever made from mid 80s. Mitch Gaylord, 84 Olympic gold medalist, just super gymnast, phenomenal story. But it's like gymnastics out in the woods for us, it was always like this legendary like thing. Like, I want a high bar in the middle of the woods. So if you haven't seen that movie, go and watch it. But that's what that's like. First time I went there, I was like, we're in the middle of the woods and there's this like incredible like setup in the middle. I was like, all right, we got to get some people out here and start doing some stuff. But next time we get you out there, we'll get you doing some ninja warrior in the middle of the woods.
I'll climb on stuff. I mean, I'm still climbing on stuff now.
I don't think that ever leaves you, right? I don't think that ever leaves you.
No.
One thing I'll mention about, I had 3 ACLs as well over the years, and the one thing that helped me a ton was lifting, like starting to do some squatting and some other movements, getting my full range. I have more range now than I did prior. I haven't lost anything, and I attribute it to my Olympic weightlifting mentors, Chad and Mike and Vanessa and Cheryl and the rest of the Power Monkey team.
Every now and then Dave will admit to that.
Every once in a while. I don't want to give him too much praise. It's holidays now, so at least we give him it's his little holiday gift.
That's my Christmas present for the
year.
Exactly.
Have you ever noticed, or have you incorporated any lifts into your training now as strengthening for that knee? Or is it something that you still shied away from a little bit?
No, I don't. I mean, my physical therapist originally was a power lifter, so he had me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was like, "You're squatting," and I remember like just being so frustrated because it was so hard. Just like keeping the form and stuff like that. Learning about like I learned so much too, like through that process, especially like with squatting. Like he was like, "All right, the weight's gonna be in the middle of your foot," and I was like, "Oh," like I had no idea like what I was doing, but I definitely think that him incorporating that definitely helped. He had me squatting like pretty early, I think, honestly, with everything. That, and he also had me working on, I think the squatting helped. And then he actually was the one who was like, your core is not strong. And I remember being like, I have abs, so it's definitely strong. And he's like, nope, it's not. And then he took me through like dead bugs and like a lot of simpler movements to prep for like the power, like the lifting and stuff. And I was like blown away with how hard it was for me. So I feel like that stuff definitely helped a ton. But yeah, for sure, the lifting helps. I still incorporate, like I always do 2 leg days no matter what every week. I hate them and I'm annoyed through them the entire time, but like I do them. I work on a lot of like lateral training. I'm big on that lateral single leg work, but I again love pairing like some kind of lifting movement, even though I don't go crazy heavy, with some explosive movement. And that's just kind of been like my jam and what I feel like has been like feeling good on my legs.
See that, Chad? That's your Christmas present right there.
That's it. But that is a great combination that you're talking about, is, doing an explosive movement right after. But that's the thing that more people need to understand as well, is that you don't have to go heavy to benefit from squatting, just being able to move your body through that range and getting some reps in. That's the most important thing. Move, like you said earlier in the recording, movement is the best medicine. So
yeah.
Well, you mentioned, well, we talked about so many different phases you've already had in your life, and you mentioned moving away from Ninja Warrior now into this next phase. What would you consider this next phase, and what do you got coming up? Is this more of the coaching the world, and now I am a mentor for the next people trying to become physically fit, Angela's lifestyle? Is that kind of where you're at now?
I feel like that's where it's going, and I'm feeling like okay with it. Honestly, it took me a long time to like, just like you were saying, to kind of accept that like that's the next phase, but it makes me feel really good. Like I really enjoy helping people get their pull-ups and like with that look on their face and things along those lines. So I think for me, my word for this year is simplicity. So I'm just kind of trying to simplify everything, and that's going to be me really fine-tuning the pull-up program. Actually going to be, this will be in January when this comes out, but I'm going to be launching a new pull-up program, which is going to be in different tracks and phases, so they can literally just get the program that fits best for where they're stuck right now. So I'm really excited because I've worked with so many people. So I'm like, all right, I'm like ready to like put that together. And then I'm doing more speaking, like stuff like this, just kind of talking about my journey, because it really is helping people along their journey for whatever it is, whether it be like business and like you said, like them trying to get through that, whether it be their ACL and things along those lines. I feel like my next step and like what I'm meant to do is to give this to the world. And it's interesting. I don't know if you guys studied human design ever. I think it's like all that stuff can be like, you take what you need from it. But my human design chart actually says that I was meant to be that athlete and all that stuff like that. And my next phase, it literally says in there, is to be the person who is doing this. So I'm like, it almost like gave me that justification to be like, okay, like my design chart says it.
Amazing. Well, that's great to see that you found that next path that's letting you help the next generation of people that need it. We'd love to have you back out at a Power Monkey camp. You can be a part of the team and give those campfire stories and let those people that are at camp hear your amazing story. But before we get you out of here, we got some quick questions if you're up for them.
Yeah.
Chad, I'm hoping that this
skip
one,
it.
I hope this one's an easy one for me, but what sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Gymnastics.
Yes. It's always a crapshoot, but we got you on as a guest
Hey, you
because
never know. You know, it was worth a shot, I guess. Worth a shot.
I'll take it. Any guests that you think would be good for us to have on the podcast? Maybe someone you've come across recently, a mentor, someone you think would be a good interview.
My one friend, Matt Choi, is amazing. He's actually a marathon runner. And he's been doing a bunch of content. He just ran the New York City Marathon with the phone in his hand, and it was the slowest time he's ever run it, but he was talking about how it was the best time he's ever had. So
what was he talking on the phone, or was he like
no, he was
filming it? Was
he documented the entire thing, and
oh, wow.
And my favorite part about him was after he was like, this is the slowest marathon I've ever run, but it was the most fun. And just kind of like that, it doesn't have to be like, you know, you PR or whatever every time to have a great time with it.
All right. Excellent. Thank you.
That's an impressive physical feat, just holding the phone up that long.
Exactly. He does announce. I mean, he runs here in Austin. And I'm like, how are you doing that?
Amazing. Well, normally I now ask if there's any books that you have come across recently that you recommend, but you mentioned earlier that you're writing a book. So one, do you have a title for that yet? And two, do you have an anticipated release?
Yeah. So my book's going to be called, But What If It All Goes Right? It probably won't be until like for a year. In my mind, I thought publishing a book would be faster, but I guess in my mind, maybe a year. And yeah, that book is literally going to be the roadmap to your journey. And basically, you know, what if it all goes right mentality when everything's going wrong? Because most of the time, everything's going wrong. So how do you have that mindset on what if it goes right? What does going right even look like? So I take everybody through the process of what they can do along their journey to make it a little bit easier in that hallway.
Well, talk about a journey. Writing a book is quite the journey. As you know, I think every author probably realizes it's a little harder than they thought they would be. I think Dave and Jordan have listened to my crying about it and delays.
Where are you now? How far away are we from
Well, I don't even want to give an estimation at this point, but yeah, I was telling you guys earlier that it's now being divided into 3 smaller books instead of one big book on everything at one time. And so the release of the first one will be a little bit sooner than the big one would be. But we're definitely far in the process and getting close to wrapping this first one up. So I'm looking forward to it and excited about it. And Angela, always excited to hear someone else taking on that task. And best of luck to you and keep pushing, because I know with your mindset you'll get it done for sure.
Thanks.
But anything else you got coming up that you want folks to know about, and where can we all keep up with you?
Yeah, I mean, the next thing that's coming up is literally the new pull-up program is going to be out. So literally you'll just take a quiz and it will send you to what track you are in your pull-up. So track 1, 2, or 3. So you're stuck at the start from the bottom, you're halfway there, or you're all the way up and you want multiple. So you'll get, so literally what I'm excited about is it's literally going to lead you to the right path for you, whatever that is, wherever you're stuck. So that's going to be coming out in January, which I'm really excited about. And then to find me, just literally at Angela_Gargano on Instagram. Feel free to message me whenever. I literally answer all the messages. I love when people message me and they're like, who is someone else answering this message? I'm like, it's like, I don't know who else you think would be doing it, but it's me. So definitely send a message, or if you watch this podcast and like there was a takeaway that you want to share, or a story you want to share, like that's why all of us do this. So we would love to hear.
Nice. Well, I would like you to help Dave get his first pull up, if you don't mind. That would be amazing. You know, teaches gymnastics, and you know, so he needs to be able to do that. But
I am one pathetic loser. I need some help.
Hey, if you can squat, you can do a pull up. So there you go.
Really? I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not true. Yeah, definitely not true. Well, Angela, we appreciate you coming on. It was a pleasure to chat with you, and hopefully we can see you again in the future in person at a Power Monkey camp or wherever else we can run across you. And
Austin.
I'm not.
I know.
Message me literally anytime. We'll take you everywhere.
Literally, I want to get down to that gym for sure. But as always, to our listeners, we very much appreciate you listening in. Be sure to head over to PowerMonkeyFitness.com for services and upcoming events. Also, check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness. Dave Durante, and Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. And until next time, guys, thank you all for listening.